The film begins by showing Liu Zimin, an international security expert and legendary sniper, who is tasked with eliminating Carlos, an international drug lord who is a wanted criminal. Using a flying device, Zimin chases Carlos' convoy and tries to shoot the fugitive who is attempting to escape on a speedboat. Although Zimin eventually manages to shoot and explode the speedboat carrying Carlos, he must evade attacks from the drug lord's henchmen, causing his flying device to malfunction, forcing him to make an emergency landing on the nearest island. After landing, Zimin quickly hides behind a large rock to avoid gunfire from Carlos' henchmen who are pursuing him to the island. When Zimin begins to be cornered, his friend Leon, who is the head of the security team, arrives with his subordinates to rescue Zimin from the attack of Carlos' henchmen. In the midst of the shootout on the beach, Leon tells Zimin that their efforts will not be in vain because they will receive a reward of $250,000 for their contribution to killing Carlos. Just as Zimin joins Leon, who has disabled the enemy forces, one of Carlos' surviving henchmen suddenly shoots them with a bazooka. A massive explosion occurs, killing many people, and Zimin is the only survivor of the incident. Sometime later, Zimin is awarded for successfully eliminating an international fugitive who had been difficult to capture. Unfortunately, after the explosion on the island, Zimin has no idea about the whereabouts of Leon, who disappeared without a trace. At the same time, Zimin is unable to locate Leon after the Chinese government requests him to return to his country. 2 years later, Zimin is assigned by the Chinese authorities to provide security in the Kunlong Republic area, where a new oil source has been discovered and is being contested by several countries. And Zimin will be responsible for the security of a tender event related to the oil fields between Chinese and American companies to be held in the area. While carrying out his duties, Zimin will be assisted by his private bodyguard named Sa Teng. On the other hand, Mobai, one of Kunlong journalists, is seen hurrying to the location where the tender will take place, until she accidentally bumps into Zimin, who is walking alone. Surprised, Mobai reflexively apologizes in Chinese, and Zimin, who hears it, feels pleased to meet someone from his country in that area. He then greets Mobai warmly. However, she instead scolds and insults Zimin, whom she considers to be flirting with her. Not long after, Mobai is seen among a crowd of journalists who will interview a Kunlong security official named Captain D, who is in charge of the security team for the upcoming oil tender. When the journalists ask about the government's security efforts for the tender event, the captain immediately calls and introduces Zimin as the head of the event security team, stating that D specifically requested the Chinese government to send Zimin to ensure the smooth running of the oil refinery tender event in Kunlong. Upon learning this, Mobai appears surprised because Zimin is the man she previously scolded. After the interview with D is over, Mobai quickly approaches Zimin to apologize and request an interview, but he refuses, citing urgent matters to attend to. Together with Sa Teng, Zimin then hurries to the tender event venue to prepare for security measures. Before leaving, as Zimin is about to get into his car, he is surprised to see Leon waiting for him in the parking area. Seeing his friend still alive, Zimin feels relieved and immediately approaches Leon to talk. At that moment, Leon's health appears to be deteriorating due to the explosion that occurred on the island, even forcing him to use an inhaler to help him breathe properly. Leon admits that after the explosion on the island, he was rescued by locals, which prevented him from contacting Zimin. Seeing Leon's condition makes Zimin feel sad. Unfortunately, he cannot talk longer with Leon because he must promptly go to the tender event venue. Before leaving, Zimin promises to meet Leon after completing his tasks in Kunlong. Sometime later, at the tender event venue, Anderson, representing the American company, had arrived at the location where journalists, including Mobai, were preparing to cover the event. Shortly after, Anderson immediately greeted P. Gom, the Kunlong official who would open the tender event. On the other hand, Zimin and his team were in their respective positions to monitor the security of the tender execution. At that moment, Sa Teng praised Zimin's achievements as a legendary sniper, but in his praise, Sa Teng showed a smirk that implied that he had a secret against him. Shortly after, P Gong began the tender event by delivering a speech, and when Zimin noticed a woman signaling with her scarf as if giving a code, he immediately ordered Sa Tung to secure the woman. Meanwhile, one of Sa Tung's subordinates fired a shot at P Gong, causing the official to be killed. After that, chaos ensued as everyone ran for cover, while Mobai secretly took photos of the surroundings in hopes of capturing the shooter, which she could then use for her news report. Meanwhile, Sa Tung was seen pointing his gun and falsely accusing Zimin as the shooter. Realizing he was being framed, Zimin fled despite his shoulder being injured by Sa Tung's shot. Without wasting time, Sa Tung ordered his men to chase Zimin, who ran into the forest. At that moment, Mobai, witnessing soldiers chasing someone suspected of being the shooter, decided to follow them into the woods. After a while of pursuit, Sa Tung and his men lost track of Zimin, so he decided to return to the base, without realizing that one by one his men were being eliminated by Zimin, who swiftly set traps for them. At the same time, Mobai began to lose her way in the forest, but she was startled when Zimin pointing his weapon at her to capture her. In the press conference room, Dee announced to the media that Zimin was the perpetrator of P Gong's shooting, until Leon suddenly burst into the room, shouting that Zimin was not the shooter. Leon tried to convince everyone that Zimin couldn't possibly do such a dirty deed, especially since Leon had known Zimin for a long time. Unfortunately, no one believed him, and he was dragged out of the room by several guards for disrupting the ongoing press conference. Later that evening, Mobai was seen with Zimin asking why Zimin had killed P Gong. While enjoying their dinner from their hunting, Zimin confessed that he was not the shooter, but Mobai didn't believe him and decided to leave because she was afraid of becoming Zimin's next murder victim. Zimin, knowing that Mobai was leaving because she was scared, finally let her go. Shortly afterward, as Zimin suspected, she changed her mind about fleeing after seeing forest insects. On the other hand, at Dee's residence, he was meeting with Anderson, who gave him a sum of money because Dee had successfully framed Zimin. Anderson deliberately bribed Dee so that the American company would win the tender by framing Zimin as the murderer. With the spread of news that a member of China's security was involved in a murder case, China's reputation would be tarnished and blacklisted in the tender. Anderson also came with a former Special Forces commander who switched professions as a hitman named Clara, who would help him kill Zimin. Shortly after, Dee's subordinates entered the room with Leon, and at that moment, Dee gave a sum of money to Leon, and then said that he knew Zimin was Leon's former colleague. However, Dee asked Leon to side with America, so that Leon could get enough money to treat his worsening respiratory illness. On the other hand, after receiving orders from Anderson, Clara and her henchmen entered the forest to eliminate Zimin. Using a drone, Clara surveyed the forest area until she found Zimin and Mobai sleeping. She then ordered her henchmen to move in. Fortunately, just before Clara's henchmen arrived at the location, Zimin heard their movements, prompting him to wake up and escape with Mobai. However, he also had to engage in a shootout with some of Clara's henchmen until he managed to defeat them. All of this was witnessed directly by Dee, who had access to the drone camera before Zimin eventually shot down the drone, injuring Dee because some of his troops were defeated by Zimin. The next day, Zimin began to weaken due to the gunshot wound from Sa Tung the day before, and Mobai immediately took him to an abandoned shack in the forest that she found not far from their location. Fortunately, Zimin found some alcoholic drinks in the shack, so with Mobai's help, he managed to remove the bullet in his shoulder. Shortly afterward, Zimin rested, while Mobai checked her camera and found photographic evidence of the P Gong shooting incident, showing that Zimin was not holding a weapon, indicating that he was not the perpetrator of the official's murder. At the same time, Clara and her remaining henchmen managed to find Zimin and Mobai's hiding shack. Seeing Mobai outside, Clara's henchmen immediately ambushed her and entered the empty shack. At that moment, Mobai told Clara's henchman named Ma Bin that she had photographic evidence proving Zimin was not the perpetrator of P Gong's murder, so Ma Bin contacted Dee to confirm this. Upon receiving the report, Dee ordered them to immediately kill Mobai and just before Ma Bin could shoot Mobai, Ziming suddenly emerged from beneath the shack floor and eliminated all of Clara's henchmen. After eliminating the armed forces that arrived, Ziming was surprised by a shot from Clara, who was around the shack area. Knowing this, he asked for Mobai's help to track Clara by showing one of the dead soldier's arms out the window, making it appear as if Ziming was relaxing. Clara fell for the trap, shooting the arm and thinking she had killed her target, unaware that Ziming was behind her. With Ziming's martial arts skills, he finally defeated Clara. Shortly after, Mobai showed the photo evidence proving Ziming innocent. Knowing this, they both hurried to the city to hand over the evidence to Leon, whom Ziming had previously contacted to help him uncover P. Gong's murder case. Meanwhile, Leon, at his residence, was seen assembling bullets, showcasing his expertise from the past. When Sa Teng entered the room to check on Leon, he warned him not to betray them because Sa Teng's henchmen had tapped Leon's phone, and they already knew about Leon's and Ziming's plans. Before leaving, Sa Teng also reminded Leon not to forget Dee's great favor, as it turned out Dee had saved Leon, after his lungs were severely injured from being pierced by glass shards after the explosion on the beach. Meanwhile, Ziming had arrived near Leon's house, knowing that many of Dee's henchmen were guarding the area. He immediately contacted Mobai, who had disguised herself, to provide the evidence to Leon. Ziming then contacted Leon and asked him to meet at a nearby monastery. On the other hand, Sa Teng managed to track Ziming's whereabouts through a call. After that, Sa Teng ordered his henchmen to move quickly to capture Ziming. Unfortunately, upon reaching the location, they only found a phone left by Ziming. As a result of the failure, Sa Teng vented his anger on Leon, accusing him of colluding with Ziming to deceive him. Shortly after, Sa Teng ordered Leon to get ready to meet Ziming and warned him not to act recklessly, as he would monitor Leon's movements through a GPS installed in Leon's car. Shortly after, Sa Teng and his henchmen had prepared around the meeting place to ambush Ziming, but unexpectedly, Ziming intercepted Leon's car in the middle of the road to evade Sa Teng's forces. Ziming immediately got into the car and handed over all the photo evidence of the P. Gong shooting incident. Additionally, Ziming also gave Leon a sum of money as payment for their success in eliminating Carlos 2 years ago, and asked Leon to leave Kunlong immediately to escape from Dee. Meanwhile, Sa Teng, realizing that Leon's car had not moved for quite some time, hurriedly took his henchmen to Leon's location. At the same time, Ziming, still with Leon, received a call from Mobai informing him that Sa Teng and his henchmen were heading to Leon's location, so Ziming bid farewell and apologized for involving him in the problem. Shortly after Ziming walked away, suddenly Leon's car exploded, shocking and saddening Ziming as Leon was still inside the car. Sometime later, at his hiding place, Ziming gave Mobai his colleague's number so she could leave Kunlong, while Ziming planned to seek revenge on Dee, who had framed him and killed Leon. Upon hearing this, Mobai revealed that she no longer had family in Kunlong and intended to join Ziming, especially since she had also been designated as a fugitive like Ziming, hoping to clear her name. Seeing Mobai's determination, Ziming finally allowed her to join and trained her to become a sniper. After Mobai mastered all the techniques taught by Ziming, they both went to Dee's residence, where Ziming assigned her to be a sniper to assist him in surveilling the area around. Meanwhile, Ziming began infiltrating the house by incapacitating the guards and planting bombs in several places around Dee's house. He then eliminated Sa Teng, who was enjoying himself with a woman in a room, before finally locating Dee's room. At that moment, Ziming forced Dee to confess to all his crimes, including orchestrating the shooting of P. Gong. Reluctantly, Dee admitted to all his crimes and revealed that previously he had met with P. Gong to bribe the official into favoring the American company in the oil tender. Unfortunately, P. Gong refused because he preferred the proposal from the Chinese company, which offered more benefits to Kunlong. Therefore, Dee planned the shooting to tarnish China's reputation and disqualify the Chinese company from the tender. After confessing, Dee was shot dead by a mysterious sniper lurking around the house, while Ziming immediately hid to avoid the sniper's shots. At the same time, Dee's house alarm sounded, prompting all the guarding soldiers to move in, and Mobai quickly reported it to Zimin, who then instructed her to shoot the bomb trigger. With the explosion, Zimin was able to eliminate the entering soldiers, and he also noticed the bullets used by the mysterious sniper and realized that they were made by Leon. Without hesitation, Zimin immediately called Leon's phone to ask about it. At that moment, Leon confessed to do it because of money, envy, and disappointment he felt after seeing Zimin receive awards and a high position in the Chinese military, while he had fallen into despair due to the explosion on the beach. After ending the conversation, Zimin received a report from Mobai, who had found Leon's position in a van. Unfortunately, after Mobai shot the van, she failed to see Leon and only found a remotely controlled weapon. Zimin then ordered her to shoot the weapon's lens and immediately hide because Leon was sure to have successfully tracked Mobai's whereabouts. After that, Mobai managed to avoid the shots directed at her by Leon. Shortly afterward, Zimin ordered Mobai to move together to ambush Leon, and with their cooperation, they managed to chase and corner Leon, who ran to an old hilltop monastery until Leon surrendered after experiencing shortness of breath. Although Zimin had the opportunity to kill Leon, he chose to release his friend and considered them even because Leon had once saved Zimin in the past. Leon then took advantage of the opportunity to inject his medication, improving his condition, and challenged Zimin to a fight to prove who was better between them. At that moment, Leon intended to eliminate Zimin to get a bigger payout from Anderson. Zimin then accepted the challenge and proved his superiority by defeating Leon. After that, Zimin, who had no intention of killing Leon, chose to let him live, considering their past friendship. Unfortunately, Leon grabbed a pistol and attempted to shoot Zimin from behind. Mobai, witnessing this, quickly raised her weapon and shot Leon dead. In the end of the film, it shows two passengers on a flight from Kunlong to China reading news about Zimin and Mobai successfully clearing their names of the accusation of killing Pigong and exposing all of Dee's crimes. At the same time, the two passengers are surprised by the appearance of Zimin and Mobai flying using their flying device and overtaking the plane they're on. Moral lesson from the story: always make sure your friends aren't hiding in exploding cars before you blow them up, or you might accidentally turn them into ghosts with a grudge. Because explosions aren't just loud, they're also bad for friendships.